everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna Lee, and I'm so glad that you guys clicked on this video. So today is the start of my yearly wrap-up videos. I have a couple of videos that I want to do just to kind of wrap up this year, and I figured I would start with the negative book reviews first, because let's get it out of the way. Let's talk about it now so that way we can focus on the positive for the rest of the year and into the new year, which is just crazy for me to think about, that it's already almost 2026. Like, how is that even possible? How is that even possible? So for this video, I wanted to do my least favorite books that I read this year. I wouldn't say that any of these books were books that I really hated. I have really yet to have a book that I've read where I absolutely hated it and it was the worst book I've ever read and I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I don't really feel like I've read any books like that. These are just the ones that just weren't really for me, or just didn't really quite hit for me. They just weren't really my cup of tea. Like, I could still recommend these books to the right audience, but it's just, for me personally, they just weren't the best. So I have, I believe, 5 books that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I only have one book that's in the physical form, and then the rest of these are going to be images that I'm going to pull up on my new, to me, iPad that I got from my coworker. But yeah, so it's not the most professional way that I can show these books, but we're gonna work with what we got. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so the first book that I'm going to be talking about is the only physical book that I have in this video, and that is Wicked: The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. Now, I actually just talked about this video in my last video that I made, which was books that I was scared to read. And I mentioned this book because I knew I was going to be reading it really soon, because this was my November book club read. And I was nervous about reading it because I knew it was going to be very tonally different than the movie and the stage musical. I've seen both. But what ended up happening with this book was just the fact that it just dragged on and on and on, and I just felt like I was trekking through mud when it came to this book. It's actually very interesting because there's a TikToker that I watch a lot. His name is Jason, and he read this book last year about this time, and he was like, this book is only like 400 pages, but it felt like the longest book ever. And I can't help but agree with him. There weren't parts that were like, it wasn't like all bad or anything, otherwise I probably would have DNF'd it, but it was like the parts that I was familiar with from like the, you know, original Wizard of Oz film from 1939, or the musical, or the movies. Like, I like anything that resembled that, I actually really liked. Like, I really enjoyed the ending and like the beginning part of it, but anything that wasn't really based on that just felt very long and just very I don't know. Not to mention the fact that I also could not stand Elphaba in this book. Like, I don't know what was going on with her, but she was just so annoying in this book. Like, her attitude, like, I understand why, but at the same time, it's also like, why are you being like this? Why are you talking like this? Why are you getting involved in this? Like, I just could not stand her in this book. I definitely prefer the musical and the movies. I feel like those are really good. I'm still gonna watch them, but at the same time, I am glad that I read this, because I'm glad I was able to kind of figure out like how the musical started, how Wicked got its start. But at the same time, I don't plan on ever rereading this. I don't plan on reading the rest of the series. I didn't even know it was a series. So we're just gonna resell this and hope that somebody else can appreciate this book. Yeah, just wasn't for me. And yeah, this book I'm going to be talking about is actually a book that I read through NetGalley, and I actually finished it at the beginning of this month, and that is Hemlock Lane, and it is by Marshall Fine. And I'm going to be honest with you, that book, it wasn't horrible. Like I said, I really have yet to read like a really bad book, But to me, it was just a book that I just couldn't really get behind, if I'm being completely honest with you. What I really didn't love about it was the fact that this book, it was structured in a weird way. Basically what this book is about this family in like the 1960s who they have 2 daughters, and the youngest is like just finished, I think, or is getting ready to finish like up her master's, and she's going to visit her family for like a weekend. And her mom is just one of those moms that is just very like stern, and it feels like you can just never please her, like nothing is satisfying to her. And that's like really, really hard to do. And I don't know. I normally I love character-driven books, but the main reason why I didn't really love this particular book was just because it was too character-driven for me. It felt like more of the story was about like the backgrounds of each character and like why they are the way that they are, instead of what was happening in the here and now. Like, it felt like we would get a little bit of plot, like it would inch the story along a little bit, and then we would have to go into this whole backstory of another character, and then we would get a little bit more of the story, and then we had to go into the background of another character, and it just was getting to be too much. And I don't know, it just wasn't really for me. Like I said, I normally love a good character-driven story, but for some reason, this one was just not it for me. I just couldn't really do it. I couldn't really, like, I just needed more plot, you know? I needed more, like, something needed to be happening more in the here and now, as opposed to, like, in the past. We were focusing too much on the past and not in the present, if that makes sense. So, next up we have Melody of a Curse. This is by, I think, Jana Ruth. This book is about it's a book that I actually read on my Kindle back in like March, I think. And it's basically about this war veteran, and he has had some really severe PTSD. Like, he is having really bad hallucinations. You know, he just is not doing very well. And he ends up befriending and becoming roommates with this woman who every single night she goes to this club. And the reason why she is going to this club is because there's this supposed prince that is there that is under a spell. And the only way that you can break this spell is if somebody dances with him every night for an entire year. So it's kind of based off of the 12 Dancing Princesses, which I loved that movie, the Barbie movie. I loved that movie as a kid. It's probably my favorite Barbie movie of all time. So, and that's one of the main reasons why I decided to read it. And I didn't hate the book. In fact, probably the more I look back on it, I actually kind of really liked it. So one of the main reasons why I really loved it was because of the war veteran character. I forget his name, but I really loved like what they showed with him. They really didn't hold back from what I remember. Granted, it's been like over 6 months since I've read this book, but they really didn't hold back on what was going on with him and his mind. Like, you could tell like he was having a really, really tough time, and I do appreciate the author for showing that to all of us, because it could have very much been a much more simple thing, but from what I remember, like, they showed us like a lot of what was going on in his head. And I also like the dynamic that he had with the woman. I thought that she was also a very interesting character, and I really liked their interactions together and how much they were able to help each other out. But to be honest with you, I think this book just ended up becoming very meh for me. I think what ended up happening is I think it just became very predictable for me, and it just didn't really hit the way I was wanting it to, and it just kind of became very middle of the road for me. So that's kind of one of the main reasons why I ended up not liking it as much. But I still would recommend it just know that if you're wanting something that is like much more true to the 12 Dancing Princesses story, you're not going to get that. So, all right, the next book I'm going to be talking about is another NetGalley arc that I read earlier this year, and that is Across the Enchanted Border by Corinne Claxton, I think is how you say their name. And this one was another book that I didn't really hate. It just didn't hit for me the way I wanted it to. So this book is about a place, this world, where there's these, it kind of reminds me a lot of East and West Germany and the Berlin Wall. That's kind of the best way that I kind of can describe its structure and like the way that it works. You have one side that is very, you know, peaceful. Anybody can be who they want to be. It's a lot, there's a lot of gender kind of talks in this book. And people can use whatever pronouns they want. People can be whatever gender they want to be. They're very free and peaceful and everything like that. And then you have this other place that is very much the opposite. There's a lot of strictness. There's a lot of, you know, brutality. It's just very much the opposite. And the way that it's divided is this enchanted border. And obviously the people in the free, like peaceful place cannot cross said border. Otherwise bad things can happen to them. So we end up getting this character. And again, I can't remember their name because obviously it's been so long and names are always the first thing that I forget. But this person does end up crossing the enchanted border kind of on accident. And he ends up meeting this family who are kind of helping him kind of get back to the border while also kind of fleeing from their house because there are people coming after them and just bad things are happening all around. And I really enjoyed the character dynamic between our main character and the family. I thought that they had a really great relationship, especially like the mom character in the family. I felt like I think that her pronouns were she, her. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm almost positive. And I just really loved the main character and the mom's character's relationship and the friendship that they end up building. And I just really enjoyed it. My biggest issue that I had with this book was why? Why are all of these things happening? Why are these people like getting, you know, killed and tortured and all of this stuff? Why is all this happening? How did this come to be? Why is there such a crazy like totalitarian leader that ends up coming to be towards the end of the book? Why? That was what was missing with this book, is the why. Why is this going on? What is happening? What is the reason? And we don't ever get that. And I understand I read it as a NetGalley arc, so I don't know if like there's a finished copy out there somewhere that it better explains this, but I don't know. I feel like I still was getting a good chunk of this book, and I feel like I got pretty much the entire story and there was just no explanation. Like, we were getting all these like things happening, but there was no like person, there was nobody was saying why this was going on. There was no history, there was no depth. It was like all this was happening and we just had to accept it and move on. And I just could not get behind that. I could not understand. Like, this book would have been really, really good, and I really did enjoy the book. I really did. But because I didn't have those explanations and all those reasonings for why all this stuff was happening, I couldn't give it a higher rating and I couldn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to because of the fact that I was missing so much of the purpose behind it. And I understand not everything has to have a purpose in the book. Sometimes an author does want to kind of keep us like in the dark. But at the same time, like even just a basic like understanding of why a character is the way that it is, especially when they're doing some not so great things, is to me very important. Even if it was just something as simple as, oh yeah, this happened to them in their childhood and now they're like this. Or, hey, this was something that was taught to them by so-and-so. Something. You don't have to give me their life story, but you at least gotta give me a little bit of the reason of why they're wanting to take over the country. Why are they wanting to kill all these people? You gotta give me a reason. You got to. I'm sorry. So, the last book that I got from NetGalley that I'm going to be talking about in this video is The Paris Express by Emma Donoghue. And this was actually a book that I had in my most anticipated list of books that I wanted to read. I was very excited to get the arc of this book. And basically, it's actually based on a true event that happened in Paris in the 1800s, where a train had a crash. And so this book is following a lot of the characters that were on that train, including the conductors, the passengers, all of that, as well as the events leading up to this crash. And I love history. I am a big history fanatic. I have always been, like, it's always been a big interest for me. And so that's another reason why I was like really excited to read this book, because it was like, oh, it's based on a true story. I'm all about it. What ended up happening with this book is the fact that there were too many characters. There were too many characters. They all were like very similar to each other, and so I ended up getting way too confused on what was happening. And it didn't help with the fact that my NetGalley app kept glitching and skipping ahead a few pages, and I didn't realize it because, again, I was so confused on who was what. When I finally found out, I had to like go back and read, and it got way too confusing way too fast. There were only like a couple of characters that I felt like were pretty distinct because of like what was going on. But a lot of them just kept getting like twisted in my head. And it just got to be too much. Not to mention the fact that the ending was so anticlimactic. It ended up, I was kind of enjoying the story. Like, it was not, like, it was kind of meh for me. But the ending just ended up like being just such a letdown. And I understand, like, this wasn't, spoiler alert, this wasn't like the biggest crash ever, but at the same time, you can write it in a way that is still interesting to read. You know, you don't have to write it in a way where, you know, it feels like the absolute wind has been knocked out of this entire book, and now it's like, oh yeah, we're done. This is what happened. It seemed to just drag on. I kept getting confused, and then the ending ended up being bad, and it was just the cherry on top of the cake. And it wasn't a very good cake to begin with. So this ended up being my lowest rated book. I gave it only 3 stars, and it was just not good. It just ended up being such a letdown for me, and I was very disappointed because I wanted to love this book because, again, I love history and I love personal history. Like, I love getting a personal perspective on different events that happen in history. Like, that's always been something that I've always been very interested in. So to have that to have like the promise of a book like that and then get this, it was just such a disappointment. And I just was like, But yeah, I know people are probably thinking that I don't like reading NetGalley arcs because several of these books have been through NetGalley, but I promise there have been NetGalley arcs that I've read that I have absolutely loved. In fact, I think 1 or 2 of them might end up being in my best list. So, in the final book, I know I said I only had 5 in this video, but then I thought of one like while I was filming this, and I have to talk about this because honestly, none of these books have been ranked because I disliked them for different reasons. But this particular book, if I had to pick a least favorite for the year, like probably the worst book that I've read this year, it would have to be this one. And that is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. And this was such a disappointment for me because I was so excited to read this book, and I ended up DNFing it with only like, oh gosh, 2-3 hours left in the audiobook. So that should just say a lot. So this book is basically about this very reclusive man who kind of lives alone with his cat that is actually sentient and actually has several chapters in this book. And it's basically about him being a recluse, and he's a very paranoid character, and a woman ended up moving into this, what has been an abandoned house right across the street from him, and he is not very happy about that. And the woman has this motivation because her sister, when she was a little kid, her sister went missing when she was only 5 years old. And so she's been wanting to find her sister, you know, her entire life basically. And she's hoping that being in this house and possibly interacting with this man could possibly help, like, figure out what happened to her little sister. Like I said, where do I even start with this? Okay. What ended up causing me to DNF it was the reveal of Olivia the cat. I'm just, if you read this book, you know what I'm talking about. It was Olivia's reveal. And at that point, I was already not loving it. I was already like, I'm not really vibing with this book. This is getting to be a little bit too weird. Like, and I like weird. I don't mind a thriller, especially, or a horror or a mystery that goes sideways. I don't mind there being a wild twist. I don't mind, you know, a moment where you're like, huh? What do you mean? I don't mind that. I actually love it. And obviously with books that are in that genre, you kind of need that. You know, you don't want a book to be predictable and to know where it's going, especially in that genre. But when Olivia was revealed, what she, like, whenever that whole thing with Olivia ended up happening, I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. There's still like 2 or 3 hours left in this audiobook, and I'm over it. Like, it just got to a point where it was like, it was getting to be too much. It was getting to be too weird, too out of left field, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't vibing with the character. I just didn't care. I didn't even care at that point. Like, I did not vibe with the main character at all. I thought he was just not a great guy, obviously. And again, normally I don't mind, especially in a thriller or a horror or a mystery, like a not so great character. But for some reason with this, it was just not for me. It just got to be like, I cannot do this anymore. So I ended up DNFing it at like 70, 75%. Like I said, I only have like a couple of hours left. And yeah, I'm sure somebody could probably make the argument of like, why didn't you just finish it? And honestly, that's fair. That is a fair thing to say. But it just got to the point where I was just like, I can't. Like, if I only had maybe like an hour left, maybe I could have stuck it out. But the fact that it was already going in this direction and I still had quite a few hours left, I was like, no. I don't care what happens to any of these characters. Number one, like, things are just getting to be way too weird and crazy for me, and I am just not enjoying myself. So you know what? I'm not gonna do it. Like I said, there are people that love this book, and I honestly thought I was going to love this book. I honestly thought that this was gonna be the book for me. I thought I was gonna be all about this book, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get behind where the story was going, and I was just, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. So that concludes all of the books that I just wasn't really into this year. You know, like I said, I wanted to kind of get this video out first before I got into the rest of my wrap-ups, because obviously this is the most negative book you know, video that I'm putting out. So yeah, I hope you guys didn't get offended at all with my video at all, because obviously, as we all know, reading is subjective. We all like and dislike different things. There are so many people out there that any of these 6 books that I talked about might be their favorites. And there are books that are probably my favorites that are on somebody else's worst read list. So yeah. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys had an amazing day, and keep an eye out for more review videos and wrap-up videos that are coming up. Like I said, we only have like, what, 6 days left of this year? 5? Something like that? I don't even know. We only have a few days left of this year, so yeah. I'm hoping also that making this video before the end of the year means that any books that I read before the year finishes, it means that all of them are going to be good, because I already made this video. So hopefully that will be the case, but I guess we'll see. And yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, you guys.